And it was wonderful to be a part of a Women's Center for Leadership, Portland Women's Center for Leadership. They had a dismantling racism series, and they invited some wonderful guest speakers to talk to hundreds, and I mean hundreds of women. I was one of the breakout room facilitators, and really having these very heartfelt discussions. Okay, what can I do to dismantle racism? Personally, me, every day, what steps must I take? And that's kind of the reconciliation. It's like, we know that it's on us, especially as white women and white suburban women, maybe, that if we are serious about it, we have to take steps. So it's an interesting, different direction of action.
Now, I like what you've done. So you've done the sort of the public piece with the
Mhm.
protests and the force, but privately there's some very deep and heartfelt conversations with a lot of local participation. Getting back
Yes.
out on the streets. What about these friendly ice characters? Night activity of the Ice Brigade.
The Ice Brigade, yes. Well, this is on the other side of it. There had been, there's kind of a history in Portland too of being a sanctuary city for immigrants who have, come here. Maybe they don't have the right documentation, but they come here as hardworking people that are needed by, in different, the agricultural or even in high tech or in a lot of different kinds of jobs. And I don't know that, well, certainly there are a lot of immigrants among essential workers, but they're in a sort of an underrepresented group, or they don't have as lot of a voice. And there have been this kind of a battle with one of the ICE uh, with their building. Even there was some protests that were going on. That's been going on for quite a few years, actually. But what happened in Bend, Oregon, of course, Bend is like I won't say it's a suburban bedroom community for Portland, because it's really about 3 hours drive away, but it's where there have been resorts, and it's where a lot of people go to retire, and it's where a lot of kind of the Oregon ends up in Bend. And you don't think of it as a place where there's going to be a lot of controversy or protesting, etc. But some ICE agents came in to take out some undocumented aliens, but who had been citizens of Bend for many years, and in one case at least 17 years. And everybody knew this person, and they didn't feel that this was right for this person to be taken off the streets and thrown in a van. So they stopped the van. They stood in front of the van, and within a few hours, there were hundreds of people who were kind of standing physically in front of the van and having a peaceful protest again. And everything was going, kind of making a little bit of noise in Bend. And everyone's like, oh, what's happening in Bend? And then in the middle of the night, because those federal agents that had been in downtown Portland, I guess they hadn't quite gotten back home. I'm not really sure. We're not sure if they are from the Southern Border Patrol or from, there are a lot of different agencies involved there. And they started to suppress the protest that was going on in Bend and push the people out of the way and tear gas them and rubber bullets and flashbangs. And it's arsenal, really an arsenal at peaceful, mostly white protesters, because Oregon is mostly white, let's face it. And they dragged the two guys out. And this is not standing well with a lot of people in Oregon, who feel like, no, we will stand up against injustices, and we will stand up for our friends of color, and we will stand up for immigrants. And in the middle of a pandemic, this is the other piece of it that's really fundamental, is that we have these protests, and it's this real deep calculation about, do I put myself at risk because I am, in this pandemic too, and everybody's, going out there with their masks, and it has so far not resulted in any extra cases of COVID, because people are trying as much as they can to distance. You cannot distance in a protest, but you can at least have your mask, and you can at least try to, be cautious about that. So it's, how do you figure out what is the right path to make action or to make change in a positive direction happen? So it's been very interesting to watch and very interesting to participate in.
Watched your Facebook ideas, and what's been great about you is like you reflect a second part. One, we have the news, and if it reaches me in London, it's the news, and then you will often say it's different. At 2 p.m. it's actually pretty peaceful here, and it's very useful for us to see the contrast between the the deliberately broadcast message and the reality from our roving reporter. One
Yeah.
last thing from the local streets. How many
Hmm.
post boxes have you got this week? Less, the same, or more?
Yeah, so there was that moment also of because people are really focused in Oregon now on, what is happening around us. We're kind of woken up to, okay, things can change in a flash. Suddenly, these federal agents can show up, and people were noticing that their post boxes were being taken off the streets. I think Eugene, Oregon, which is a college town, uh, another place that's had seen a lot of protests, and they noticed that their post boxes were being taken away. And then we started hearing stories about sorting machines that were being taken offline. And that, of course, slows everything down. And people noticing, the letter that I send across town that always was there by the next day is now taking 3 or 4 days, and and being taken away on big trucks, and where are they going and what's happening with this. And I know that there has been a desire to make the postal system more efficient. There's a lot it's not a profitable enterprise. It was never supposed to be. It is mandated in our Constitution. It is a service to the people, and it's not something that is supposed to be making money. Of course, it's competing with the likes of Amazon and UPS and so on. And there are people who have that profit as their motivator. And but it gets at everybody's heart, because all of us use the post office for one thing or another. There are a lot of people who depend on it for their medications. Older people depend on it especially, and of course voting. Oregon has was the I believe, I think I'm right about this, was the first all mail-in voting state.
All
And we
mail
have
in,
been
but
doing
okay.
and we have been doing it for pretty much the whole time I've lived in Portland. It's been about 20 some years that we have had mail-in voting, and the incidence of fraud is, near at or near zero. It's been a really wonderful, convenient, and smart way to do our voting, and we don't get what the problem is. It's like, just do mail-in voting. It is
You're
so
used to it.
much
It's a
easier.
habit. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's a habit, and more people vote, and there's, I think, better representation, because it's not, you don't have the barriers of, can I get to a place? Can I get time off? You do it at your own pace and your own convenience. And I walk, 3 yards out to my centralized post box, and I stick my ballot in there, and I take a picture of me voting. So it's yeah, so we are definitely we were also the first ones to have the recycling programs. I mean, Oregon has often done things before other states have done them, and we become the experiment, I guess, and that's kind of what's happening now. We're the whipping boy of
The whipping,
whatever
exactly.
movement is happening in the country.
Never be the barometer. It's yes. If they can intimidate the moderates, then everyone else is going to follow. It's fairly scary.
Oh yeah, well, that was the thing. The attack on what not attack, I shouldn't say that. There was the tweet about suburban housewives, and
Okay.
that was another thing that got us activated, because it's like, wait a minute, suburban housewives. First of all, most of us living in the suburbs are working in some form or another. We work from our desk, whatever, and we are frustrated because we don't have our daycare, we don't have our schools to send the kids to. And in many cases, it's the suburban woman that is the breadwinner, or maybe she's a single mom. So you can't put this one size fits all
The
1950s
1950s label, exactly.
Leave It to Beaver, was it Mad Men, label on us. And we are a force of political activism now. And I had just joined the Suburban Women for Kamala Harris, supporting Kamala Harris, and it went from zero on August 11th to now, 110,000
A
people on
lot.
this
A lot.
page,
Yeah.
and and it's started by Black women who want to make sure that we are not that our voices are heard, and that we represent something rather different than what might be the stereotype of us.
Yes, the old boys network. Sounds good. So you are a reliable reporter on the ground, giving us the truth despite the crazy algorithm. Viewers, thanks for tuning in. Please like this and spread the good word to all people. Sue, we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much.
All right. Cheers, everybody. See ya.